Welcome to Bougie and Boring, the spa business podcast that proves success doesn't have to be stressful. My name is Amanda Louisa. I'm a spa owner and a coach, and around here, bougie means high-end and well-paid. Boring means drama-free and simple. Together, that's how you build a spa that's smooth, profitable, and actually fun to run. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get right to it. Hello, gorgeous. Welcome back to another episode of Bougie and Boring, a spa business podcast. My name is Amanda. I am a spa owner, and I have been through 9 different cycles of hiring. I have hired estheticians, business assistants, support staff, virtual assistants. I have, and that's just in my business. So I've also hired other people in other areas of my life. But today, I really want to talk to you about how to set up a job application that actually filters the right people in and out of your inbox and out of the job application process. Okay, so this has been coming up a lot with my coaching clients. I recently had a big influx of people who are really wanting to make their very first hire. And that is one of the areas, it's one of the 2 areas that I really focus heavily in, is making your first hire, specifically an esthetician, and how to maximize your team. So if you already have a team, that's the other area that I specialize in. And essentially, what I help people with in that regard is how to pay yourself more once you have the team. Okay, so today we're just focusing on the job application portion. I spoke with someone today who, and just to give you an idea, I'm at the beginning of January right now, and she's like, I think Q2 is when I'm going to post the job application. And I asked her, why Q2? What's going to happen in Q2 that's not happening right now? And she said, well, I just feel like I'll be ready and prepared. And I said, but you need help now. Like you don't have the capacity now. You need help now. And she's like, right. But like once I put that job application out, I'm not ready. And I said, if you put the right application out, it's going to filter the people for you so that you don't have to worry about the wrong person applying. It's going to make it so easy for you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So if this is helpful, please send it to another spa owner friend that you think would really benefit from learning about this. So I just want to address a few reasons why, or a few main areas that I see not working. And the first one is just like asking for resumes. And the second one is gut feelings. Okay, so those are my 2 little notes that I took on this. Is the first one is resume. So something I see a lot is that, a spa owner is so overwhelmed and so eager and desperate for help that they literally will just they'll copy paste something from ChatGPT or Indeed, and they'll just put the generic template out and like maybe add their logo on, list out a couple tasks and requirements, and then it's done and they post it. And then they do start getting a ton of applicants, but it's from people who have no business working in their spa. And sometimes what will happen is that they will actually get no applications at all. So we have like 2 extremes here. And so, there's an easy fix for both of them is this pretty much the same thing. And I think I'll go over that after I explain more. But the second thing is that I see a lot is trusting your gut feeling. And I know that this might sting a little bit because, and I'm only, keep in mind, girlfriend, I am saying this from a place of peace and love because I have so been there where I'm like, oh my gosh, like she just needs a second chance and I could be the opportunity. I could be the person that takes her under my wing and she's just gonna thrive in my spa. And it's like, no, you're not hiring someone to like change them. You're hiring someone to help you, to support you, to give you relief. You're not hiring someone to give you more work and put more things on your plate. And I think that might just be like 2026 Amanda talking to 2018 Amanda in this moment. So take that as you want, but just know that I get it. Okay. I did this too when I was first building my team. So for example, someone would send in their resume and they would look great on paper. They've got certifications, years of experience, glowing references. And I would think, oh my gosh, this person is perfect. They're perfect. And then, 3 months in, I'm like, they don't really handle constructive feedback very well, or they would complain constantly about every single service. And they would mope that their books weren't full, even though I was bringing in enough clients for them. And even worse, and like, I'm not talking about any one particular person that I have had on my team. This is stuff that yes, I've experienced in one way or another, but it's from multiple different past team members and past experiences just in general. So this method that I have perfected really is something that just really helps to find someone who's going to be the best fit for what you need and not add more to your plate. So just remember that resumes tell you almost nothing about how someone actually shows up for work, right? It doesn't tell you how they handle stress or how they do during a slow week. It definitely doesn't tell you if they're coachable or accountable or drama-free. And your gut feeling, which definitely has its place, but when you're exhausted and desperate for help and staring at 103 different job applications in your inbox, your gut is probably telling you to just hire the first person that looks decent. And that's just not the place that you want to be when you are hiring. So what can we do instead? I want to read you a little snippet from Harvard Business Review. So it says, article is titled How to Take the Bias Out of Interviews. And it says, while unstructured interviews consistently receive the highest ratings for perceived effectiveness from hiring managers, dozens of studies have found them to be among the worst predictors of actual on-the-job performance. So in other words, if I were to say this in another way, it's basically the hiring manager they perceive the person to be, they rate that person high based off of their perceived gut feeling. But studies have found that these gut feelings are the worst predictors of actual on-the-job performance. So making your decisions based off of facts and data and not feelings is so much better long term. So let's break down what your application actually needs to include in order for you to have the best outcome here. Okay. So this isn't a comprehensive list. That is we can absolutely go deeper into that. This is just a great place for you to get started if you're feeling stuck or if you're in analysis paralysis. Okay. So, the first thing is to have really clear expectations. Now, do not write a novel. Okay. We're not trying to make someone go cross-eyed with the amount of words on the page. We just want, what are your non-negotiables? What is your culture like? What does success look like in this role? For example, at the beach house, something that I will always say is, especially for someone first starting out, is I always say you have to work Saturdays. You have to work either a Friday or a Saturday, no exceptions. And I also require that everyone do every service. That's one of my requirements. So let's say somebody was coming from a medical spa, which I'm not. I'm a holistic day spa. If someone was coming from a medical spa and they are only primarily comfortable with like facials and lasers and injectables, but we do a lot of lashes and waxing, and they are not comfortable with those things or even learning about it, that's not going to be a good fit. And I need whoever is looking at the application, I need them to see it and know, wow, this is what they focus on. I know that is not my calling, so I'm not going to apply for that job. That's the first thing. So like, you want to make sure that whoever is applying is actually okay with what they will be doing. So for example, another thing too, I take a lot of pictures of my team, of the space that we're in, of the clients. And I did have, and I didn't even know this was an issue until I went through my very first round of hiring. Actually, it was my second round of hiring. Oh my gosh, I'm literally just remembering in this moment. I went through my first round of hiring, and when I offered the job to someone, they turned me down. And then 2 weeks later, the world shut down and COVID happened. And I'm like, wow, I'm so glad she said no. But anyways, I digress. Moving on to what I meant to say. The second person that I hired, I assumed she was comfortable with her picture being taken. And I later learned after she was already she had already signed her paperwork. She had already gone through a lot of training stuff. I learned she was not comfortable with her picture being taken. And I'm like, how am I going to be able to advertise for you? Like, my job is to get you booked. Your job is to keep them here. But if I can't bring them in because nobody knows what you look like, that's going to be very, very hard. And so that's when I made the decision, like, I need whoever applies to this job, I need them to be comfortable on camera. Like, I need you to be okay with me taking pictures of you, whether you're talking to a client, doing a service on them, or I'm just taking like a cute picture of you holding a product. Like, I need you to be comfortable on camera. The next thing is to also talk about like availability requirements. So for someone that's just joining me, I need them to be able to work evenings because that's what gets people booked the fastest, right? So if someone is able to work, I need to know, like, can you work weekends? Can you work evenings? I need that flexibility. It's just, that is what we are needing. I'm going to offer the best times to my current team because that's who I am responsible for right now. And that's who I'm taking care of. And so if they want those hours, I'm going to offer it to them. And if they take them, then they're no longer available. And now I need to find someone who can fit into our evening shifts. So that's what I'm going to look for. I'm going to say, looking for someone interested in working weekends and evenings from this time to this time. And I mean, that already in and of itself really, really helps. So, I mean, I can't tell you how often myself and some of the spa owners that I've coached, they'll hire someone and then when they get on and they're like, okay, this is going to be your schedule. They're like, oh, I can't work Saturdays. Like, this is exactly what I'm hiring this person for. So I can't afford to have them not work that. Okay, the next thing is you want to ask a question on the application form that requires the person to think and be a little bit resourceful. Okay, this is something that I learned from a previous mentor of mine, and I thought this was so smart. I will preface this by saying you should not hire or not hire somebody based off of a personality test. Okay, so you want to ask one question on the job application form, the intake form for the application. Ask them one question that just makes them think and makes them be resourceful. And that question that I like to ask is, what is your MBTI? That stands for Myers-Briggs Indicator. And I do not hire someone based off of whatever their 4 letters are. That is not at all in any way, shape, or form a part of the criteria that they need to meet. all I am looking for is that they answered the question. That's it. And that is the first thing I go to. So the way that it works, if somebody wants to apply for a job at the beach house, which is my spa, they would find, whether it's on Indeed or my careers page or maybe a Facebook post somewhere in the community, they would go to, it'd say like, apply here. You click on that. It brings them to a Google form that then has a bunch of questions like, do you have your aesthetic license in the state of Illinois? Do you have your GED or high school diploma? Do you work best on a team? A really good question that I like to ask is, do you have sales experience, right? Because if you think about what we do at the core, it's essentially like it's a sales job, right? So yes, they are, the esthetician is doing, the lashes, the skincare, the waxing, the whatever. But in the end, like, you need to give them a treatment plan. That's a type of sale. You need to give them a skincare line. That's a type of sale. I need to know, do you have sales experience? Do you have aesthetics experience? Because I would say maybe like 75 to 80% of the people that apply, at least in my area, are still in school or literally just got their license, or they passed their exam, but they haven't gotten their license from the actual state yet. So it's a lot. I'll ask questions like, are you a self-starter? Are you organized? Do you have the ability to multitask? Are you introvert or extrovert? And then I ask the MBTI. And so what I will then do, because this is all in a Google form, I will then I'll look at the responses in Google Sheets, and I'll go straight to the one that says MBTI. And I kid you not, like, I'm going to do this in real time. I'm going to look at the ones that I haven't looked at recently. So I have not needed to hire an esthetician for a while. I just have not needed to. So let's see here. Okay, we've got quite a few people that have applied. Now, I haven't been advertising, but it's still available on my website. So if somebody just happens to go on, then they can apply at their own leisure. But it does say like currently not accepting applications. So it looks like we've had 12 applications in the last 6 months. And I'm going to go straight to the question that says, what is your MBTI? Let's see. 5 people actually put something in there that is an MBTI. Other people said, let's see, this person said peacemaker. This person said focus on their attention. This person said IDK, literally wrote the 3 letters IDK. Automatic no for me. Another person said NA. Another person said, I'm not sure. Another person said perceiving. And then the other person, the last one, said understanding client satisfaction, keeping clients safe and comfortable. Here's what I'm learning from this, okay? So these 12 people that applied over the last 6 months. So the 9 people that did not do it the right way, those are an automatic no, because that tells me they can't do a basic Google search to figure out what their MBTI is. And it's a free thing. It's not like I'm asking them to spend money at all. I just need them to, if they can fill out this form on the internet, then they can pull up another tab and Google something. And it's been so interesting to see who's actually doing things the way that I would want. And then from there, I go to, do you have any sales experience? Because I want to know, like, do you have experience in sales? Like, I will hire someone straight out of school if they have, 2 or 3 years of customer service experience or of sales, being in customer service or sales. And if they were able to be resourceful and figure out their MBTI. So that is that part. It's definitely something that's a little bit more robust, but I'm telling you, if you do it this way, like, you are going to find people that are very competent and they are very much able to help with so many more things than just being an esthetician. They're going to be way better at being more self-aware. They're going to be better at just like at so many other areas. and you don't have to ask the MBTI question. You can also ask a different question of like things that would make someone need to be self-aware in order to answer it. Like, tell me a time of when you received feedback and you didn't agree with it. How did you handle that? This is a common one, and it's good because it tells you if that person says, I never receive feedback that I disagree with, that's going to set off a little bell, or it should set off a little bell in your head, because either they're not being honest or they don't have any self-awareness. And if someone immediately gets defensive, then, or their answer is just to blame the person who gave them the feedback, then you know that they're going to be difficult to give feedback to. And what you're really looking for is that person who said, my manager once told me that I needed to work on my time management, or that I can take things too personal. And in the moment, I didn't love hearing it, but I asked for specific examples and I worked on it, and, they were right. I worked on it. And, hearing something like that from a potential candidate is a really good sign. And it tells me that they're coachable, that they're willing to be open to self-reflection, to feedback, to growth. And that is the kind of mindset that you want on your team, right? Another great question to ask someone is, what do you do when your schedule is as full as you'd like? And this one it'll really paint a picture of who's ready to figure out how to be resourceful and still be, even though they might not have a client at the time, they're still able to do work and get things done. So it's going to separate that person from like the complainers. I had, someone who would she had Eeyore energy, just a rain cloud over her head all the time whenever she was slow. And, it's really hard to work with someone that doesn't seem happy all the time, especially because we're supposed to be a place where people come to feel good and feel they're being taken care of. And, we absorb the energy of the people around us. And if she's got your energy, it's just really hard to be around someone like that. So, some people might say, if you hear something like, oh, I would have just talked to management about marketing, that's putting something on someone else's plate, right? So that to me is like, this isn't like, I can't do anything about it. This is your fault. This is what, like, you need to do something about this. Whereas like something that I'm going to look for is someone who say, I'd reach out to past clients. I would take pictures with products. I would offer something to my, I would offer something to my boss to be like, hey, is there any chance that we can do a flash sale today for a facial or for a Brazilian or lashes or whatever? And, they're using their downtime to set themselves up for success for when that client does come in. And I translate that as I take ownership of my success. And that's really important. So do you see the difference between the two? It's really important that, whoever you bring on is not adding to your plate. They're in fact taking things off of your plate. So, pay attention to that wording. Okay. Here are a couple others that I really that I like. And sometimes I will ask these things in the in-person interview or maybe over the phone, not just because so I like to do it as like, okay, we're doing this application process first because it's going to weed out the people that are not a good fit. And then I do a phone interview, and that's going to tell me a lot of things. Actually, I have learned so much about a phone interview that I am now like, wow, I'll never hire someone again that is like this, because I am 2 for 2 right now. I've hired 2 people that this has happened with, and I have fired both of them. So like, I now for sure will never hire someone that does this anymore. But I'm able to ask these certain questions and like, I'm not looking for any particular answer. I'm looking for, how do they talk on the phone? And the answer is important, obviously. So let me just give you an example of a couple more questions that I like to ask that I love. So describe a time that you had a conflict with a coworker. what happened and how did you resolve it? You want to look for, like, are they the victim in it? Did they take ownership of what they did? Are they a drama starter or a problem solver? Do you get what I'm saying? Or as my sister loves to say, shout out to Julia, she's like, she will ask, are they a problem solver or a solve-em probler? Right? Two different people, okay? So, another great question is, what does exceptional client experience mean to you? And it will tell you if their values align with yours, okay? And you have to take in the whole picture, right? So if this is someone who's like for example, I'm in my mid 30s, okay? And so when someone is 18, 19, 20 years old, I mean, that is like arguably, potentially, that person could be my kid. You know what I mean? So like there's a generational difference there that I have to take into consideration and I have to understand. So obviously their values are going to be a little bit different. They're most likely not a mom like I am. They're most likely not married and live on their own quite yet, which, I mean, I was living on my own by the time I was 18. So everyone's different, but like you have to also take in the whole picture of like, okay, this is someone who's fresh to adulthood. So they're still figuring out like how the world works as an adult and not living at home anymore, if they even are living on their own. So take all of that in and take it into consideration as well. And so when you apply these things to your job applications, you're going to get fewer applications. And that's okay. That is the point. That's what you want. I just said I got 12 applications in the last 6 months. And out of those 12, 9 of them did not apply the right way. So now I only have 5 people to pick from. And out of those 5 people, I mean, this is literally what I did while recording this podcast. So I have not been able to like dive into that very deeply, but like out of the 5 people, wait a second, one of these is a duplicate. So there's only 4 people. So we just reduced our, okay, we have 4 people who applied the right way. And out of those 4, let's see, do any of them even have their license yet? Nope, this person does not have their license. This one does, this one does, this one does not. This one does. Okay. So out of the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, there is 5. I'm sorry. Oh, maybe I didn't. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. 5 people. Out of the 5 people that applied, 3 of them actually have their license as in aesthetics or cosmetology in Illinois. Do you see how that just went from like so many applications to now I only have 3 legit people that I can look deeper into? So I just reduced so much of my time by actually implementing this, okay? And that's the point. The people who do apply are going to be such a higher quality. And those are the ones who you're going to read and your expectations are most likely going to be met by these people. So you're also going to scare some people off, which is what you want. That means it's working. Congratulations. And I would rather have these 3 solid applications from people who are self-aware and accountable than the 12 people who are just applying to apply and looking for any job. And the beautiful part of all of this is that when you're clear about what you're looking for from the very beginning, you are setting the tone for this entire working relationship. And that is such a beautiful thing. So be specific. This is not you being picky or difficult. You're being strategic. You're being smart with your decisions. You are being so efficient with your time because trust me, girl, a bad hire costs you so much time and so much money and so much energy that it's just not worth it. And it's just not worth it. And so save yourself the trouble, learn from my mistakes, and you'll do fine. You'll do great. So remember, the job application is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be effective. And that's what this method does for you. It should attract the right people and repel the wrong ones. It should give you a real insight into who someone is before you ever sit down with them. And you can do it in your own time. This is just the very first step in the application process. This isn't even the actual next step. The next step would be, so like if you look at so I send everybody to a Google form, right? And when they go to the form, at the very bottom of the questionnaire that they fill out, it says, to complete this application, please send your resume to our email address with the subject line, ready to bring relaxation and results. And so now with those 3 people, if they did in fact send me their resume with that subject line, now I'm going to be able to look at it and know, wow, okay, this is great. Now this person I know can follow directions. Not only can she do a basic Google search, now she can follow directions. And I will tell you, because I get all of those notifications of like who actually sent in their resume the right way, I can tell you, let's see. All right, so out of 3 people that actually put down an MBTI and actually have their aesthetic license, only 1 of them sent an email with the subject line. So now I only have 1 candidate, but keep in mind, I'm not hiring. But out of those 12 people, I only had 1 person that I would actually consider, and automatic, she goes into the next round, because now I know she can follow directions, she can do a basic Google search, and she has her license. Literally the 3 things that I am really, really looking for in a candidate, right? Remember, you're being efficient and effective and strategic. You're not hiring out of desperation. You're not hiring because you feel like it's just the next step. You're hiring because it's the right person at the right time. Okay. And that's how this works. And if you're thinking, but Amanda, I need somebody right now. Trust me, I hear you. But I promise that by taking the extra week or 2 to find the right person, it is so much better than spending 6 months managing someone who should have never been hired in the first place and might actually be stealing from you, and then you have to fire them later, and it turns into a whole thing that might involve the police, may or may not involve the police. Listen, I'm just saying, trust me on this one, okay? So if you want help creating your own job description and help with the application process, this is something that I do pretty frequently. I have a free template that you can grab in the description below. It includes all of the things that we talked about today, the sample job description that's clear, and it filters out the right people. You can find it down below or on amandaluisaconsulting.com. All right, gorgeous. Make your application work for you instead of against you. I will see you in next week's episode. Bye. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If this episode gave you something to think about, please take a minute to leave a review and share with a spa owner friend. If you're ready for more support like this, I have left the link to my free 30-minute discovery call in the show notes below. I would love to learn more about you and your spa and what it is you are trying to accomplish right now in this season of life. Until next week, peace and love, my friend. I'll talk to you later.